What you should know before getting your navel pierced, coming up next on Consultations by a Piercer, episode number 44. For those who are new to the channel, welcome to the Body Piercing and Tattooing channel. I hope you're finding the videos helpful and useful, but you might not know who I am. My name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, located right here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. Well, we're going to talk about the piercing that built the body piercing industry. Anybody who started piercing in the 90s, this is the piercing that kind of made it possible to actually have piercing as a profession. It was the first really super popular mainstream piercing there was. Millions upon millions of people got it done, and the body piercing industry developed and expanded because of it. Navel piercings are usually done through the top ledge or lobe, I guess, sort of the navel. Done a little bit so that it's more outside the navel, kind of that traditional style with the curved barbell with the two gems, one bigger on the bottom and one smaller on the top. Average healing time on this is going to be anywhere from 6 months to 12 months, so 6 months to a year, during which time I'm going to suggest cleaning twice daily using a sterile saline solution. Personally, I like NeoMed's Piercing Aftercare. Comes out in a fine mist. Easy to use. You just spray it on there and leave it on there for about 5 minutes and pat it dry. Do that twice a day. There are other things on the market that are comparable, including NeoMed's Wound Wash and a few other ones. Main thing you want to look for when you're looking for saline is that, first off, it is in a pressurized can. Second off, it says sterile on it. And when you flip it over and look on the back, it says sodium chloride in purified water. Nothing else. And there's no preservatives. Oftentimes, delivery can be a little different. It can be kind of like a squirt gun where it comes out very rapidly. So spraying that directly on the piercing is probably not going to work very well, be kind of messy and wasteful. So you can do compresses, cold compresses. Basically take a clean, sterile piece of God's sponge, or a clean paper towel as possible in a pinch, spray it on there till it's damp, and then lay it against the piercing area for roughly about 5 minutes, and then pat dry. That you want to do twice daily for at least the next 6 months, or until you stop seeing the discharge collecting and depositing on the jewelry, and the piercing holes will start to grow inward. Also, the jewelry will move through the piercing fairly easily. Whenever in doubt of whether or not a piercing is healed, go see your piercer, have them take a look at it, and let them make that decision for you. The other thing I suggest doing during the healing process is to, at the end of your shower, stick your belly out, let the water flow over the area for about 30 seconds. What we're doing with that saline twice daily in the rinsing in the shower is we're removing that discharge that hardens, collects on the jewelry, the crusties. The reason why we want it off there is when the jewelry shifts or moves, it will agitate it and can lead to issues. Also, it can be very uncomfortable. The reason we want it off there is for that. If you come across a situation where there's an obsessive amount of it, or it doesn't seem like it wants to come off there, don't run to the medicine cabinet and start pulling out everything tipped in cotton or has a sharp point and start digging around in there to get it off, because you'll probably do damage. Go see your piercer, have them take a look at it, because there might be something else going on that needs to be addressed. Now let's talk about cross-contamination prevention. Common sense stuff. Wash your hands before you handle it. No oral contact or exchange of bodily fluids on, near, around the piercing until it heals. Keep your environment clean. Clothing, bedding, towels, anything that may come in contact with the piercing needs to be cleaned on a regular basis. Do not swim. I know you're going to hear a lot of conflicting things on the internet of, oh, after 2 months it's perfectly fine, etc. The reality of the situation is you have an open wound on your body. And it is a portal into your body. If you get in a body of water that's big enough for you to completely submerge yourself and then swim around or move around in it, it's going to be filled with microorganisms. There's always a possibility that microorganism, a pathogen, will get its way into the piercing and then cause an infection. So it's best to stay out of the water until it's completely healed. Keep pets away from it. Don't let them sleep in the bed with you, especially under the covers where they may have contact with the piercing or come in contact with sheets or bedding that may come in contact with the piercing. Now let's talk about trauma, abuse, and clothing. Biggest thing with navel piercings, and probably the thorn in the side of every piercer on the planet, is that you cannot wear high-waisted pants against this piercing while it's healing. Especially the high-waisted women's cut pants where the waistband is in direct contact with your navel. That constant movement, agitation, and pressure will cause issues, including rejection, tearing, and those lovely bumps everybody hates. Do not wear clothing that has a waistband that's against the area. You may be able to get away with something that has an elastic waistband, but if there's any discomfort at all, do not wear them. Understand that even after the piercing is healed, you may not be able to wear that style of clothing. Do not sleep on the piercing. Sleep on your side or your back. Do not spin, rotate, or move the jewelry. Leave it alone. It's not a plaything. Just in general, avoid contact with the piercing. Do not play with it. It is not a toy. Now let's talk a little bit about the risks involved with a navel piercing. Of course, there's always a risk that the jewelry will fall out if you do not check the balls on a regular basis. There's also the risk of it rejecting. It's not any more so than other piercings, but it is prone to that, maybe a little bit more than other ones. It will leave a lot of scarring if it does migrate or reject. Also, this piercing is one of those ones that does scar pretty good. So if you don't want to scar on your perfect stomach, don't get your navel pierced or leave the jewelry in. Now let's talk about placement and angle. This piercing is placed kind of at a slight angle through that natural lobe of tissue that's on the top of your navel. If you take your index finger and put it inside your navel and pinch down, you'll notice there's kind of a flap of tissue, almost a lobe there. What we'll do is we'll pierce through that. Usually the top will be pretty far out and the bottom will be just a little bit inside the navel so that that ball kind of rests right there and is very visible. Let's talk about jewelry. Now, with jewelry, curved barbells is your best and only option with these. It can be internally threaded or threadless. I do not suggest externally threaded jewelry in any piercing because it's usually a sign that that's not the best jewelry to begin with. I do not suggest rings or circular jewelry, especially while the piercing is healing. You might be able to get away with that possibly after it is well healed in season, but during the healing process, you definitely want a curved barbell. Let's talk about pain in the piercing experience. Most people on a scale of 1 to 10 will say that this piercing is a 2 or less. It is not a very painful piercing. You don't have a lot of nerve endings in that area. Usually people feel more slight pinch maybe and more pressure than anything else. If you're nervous about this, a breathing exercise can be very helpful. Generally what I'll suggest doing is taking doing an inhale and exhale exercise. Breathe in through your nose when I tell you hold it, and then when I tell you to exhale, blow out your mouth. Basically smell the cake, blow out the candles. This piercing can be done freehand, but I prefer to do it with forceps. A number of different reasons is it's always easier to make sure that the piercing is straight and the marks are lined up correctly. It also condenses that area. Though a lot of people find the forceps to be the most uncomfortable part of the whole procedure because you're not used to having things rotting around and moving around inside your navel, and it doesn't feel particularly good. Quick piercing, needle goes in and through, then the forceps are removed. The jewelry is, the needle is pushed out. Basically, the jewelry is connected to a guide pin, pushes on the back of it, pushing the needle out. Guide pin's removed, ball's put on. Any blood or anything's cleaned up. You're done. A little bit of saline to make it feel good, and you're on your way. Now, you might notice a little bit of throbbing and aching immediately afterwards. That usually lasts a few minutes. Then it's going to be tender to the touch, off and on for a couple weeks in most cases. Understand that when you touch it and it hurts, it does that on purpose. It's training you to keep things away from it. If it hurts to touch it, don't touch it. Now let's talk a little bit about anatomy. First and foremost, this piercing cannot be done on someone who's an outie. There needs to be that natural ridge and there needs to be jewelry for the piercing. Everybody's kind of on a scale between a really deep innie and a really shallow outie. You need to have your anatomy looked at to try to decide or evaluated to see which is going to work best for you. Now, piercings are people who have a very deep navel or it curves inward or when they sit down, especially if there's a crease there, or have more of that hourglass shape, you may be a better candidate for a floating navel, where the bottom is more inside the navel and there's only that top gem setting that's visible. I'll be doing one of these on floating navels here in the near future. But do your research, trust your piercer, talk to them about the options. One of the biggest mistakes I've seen over the years with navel piercings is on people that have a deep navel or sunken navel, they will pierce out of the navel and through the stomach. That's not going to heal correctly. Basically, that is a surface-to-surface piercing, and in most cases, it'll just create a lot of scarring, and you're wasting your money. It needs to be in the navel itself. Now, if you want that traditional look, but you have to have a floating navel, a jewelry option would be a J bar, which is shaped like a J, which will be deeper into the navel and then has that J in so that gem setting can sit on the top outside your navel and give that illusion if you want to go in that direction eventually instead of the floating style. And lastly, what you should consider. First and foremost, you cannot sleep on this piercing. If you're a stomach sleeper, there are a couple tricks to keeping you from rolling over on your stomach when you're asleep and you don't realize what you're doing. One of those being putting a pillow between your legs. Another one being is cuddling up to a big, large, oversized sleeping pillow or body pillow. Do take this into account and prepare for it in advance. High-waisted, especially tight-fitting jeans or pants should be avoided completely. Get the wardrobe ahead of time. Don't wait till you get the piercing and then go out and go shopping afterwards. You're not going to feel like doing it, and you're going to end up messing with the piercing during its initial healing phase, where you can do the most damage by wearing those high-waisted, tight pants against the area. Don't think that you're the exception, because there is none with this one. Keep things away from it, and you'll have a much better heal, easier, and the outcome will look better. You cannot swim while healing a piercing. Take that into consideration and plan ahead. If there's a period of time where you normally don't swim, maybe do it at the beginning of that particular period of time, like the fall, early fall, and that gives you that 6 months to heal. Hopefully by next summer, it'll be to the point where swimming will be safe. Sports and other activities. If you do anything where you slide on your belly or have pressure on that area or wrestle or do anything that there's probably going to be contact with a piercing, I would suggest waiting until after you're done doing that activity and are taking a break to give your body time to heal the piercing. Don't get it done at the beginning of the season or what have you, because you're probably going to end up having issues. And lastly, if you're going on vacation or a trip of some sort, understand that anytime you go on a trip, you may be in an environment that you've never been in before. You may be introduced to pathogens and microorganisms that you never had contact with before. You can't control how clean the area is, etc. So you're at an increased risk of infection or other problem. The other thing is, most people want to swim while they're on vacation, and you can't swim. Take into account also that, who wants to mess with a healing piercing while you're on vacation? It's always best to either wait till you're done with vacation or postpone the vacation until the piercing's healed. Well, that's all I have to say on navel piercings today. What were your experiences like healing them out? Leave a comment. Let us know. Till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see you for your body piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care. Have fun. Thank you for watching, and check out this next video.